Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the third round with Mr. Kesaraj Gunasekara, member of the Devil Mount Lavinia Municipal Council. Mr. Gunasekara, the President's office seeks to block access to Prime Minister's asset declaration. Have you been able to read this article, Mr. Gunasekara?
Yes.
It seems like you scratch my back and I will scratch yours. Isn't it the repetition of history once again unfolding in front of our own eyes?
Well, the question is, people need to understand whether they are leaders or not otherwise, that the rule of law is essential. When there is a act which is passed in Parliament, you have to adhere to that. You have to respect that. If you don't respect that, then that spells trouble. But unfortunately in this country, there is this saying, no, this law is for the Appusinho and the Peter Mahathya, not the others, which is very true. But the law keeps on changing depending on the personality, which is tragic.
And you can even do whatever you want in Parliament and still get away with it.
Yes. Why? Because there is nobody.
You can even assault a police officer and there is no obstruction of duty.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is the irony of it. You know, you can do anything and get away. But there are so many things that have happened. If I may start from the beginning, I fundamentally feel that party leaders since January 8th have been playing a game. None of them were interested in the country. They were interested in themselves. That's the bottom line of everything. Huh? That's the bottom line. Because there are so many things that they could have done and achieved, which they didn't.
They did.
Huh?
They robbed the central bank.
They robbed the central bank. And mind you, now the irony of this whole exercise is the central bank, we all know, everybody knows that it was robbed. But tell me one agency which looked into the matter and said, look here, these people are responsible for these actions and they need to be punished. Not even central bank. Not even the central bank.
But when the main culprit is out of the country and is still at large...
That is only one person. You cannot carry out a fraud of that nature
alone.
You need the support of others. You cannot do it alone.
White collar crime.
So what has happened to the others? Why do they get away? Why do ministers who are involved in this whole exercise are still continuing? Why no action being taken? These are questions that someday these leaders will have to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesaraj Gunasekara. I now move my attention to Mr. Rusil Palathendakon. Mr. Thendakon, Arjuna Mahendran and Kasun Palisena were bailed out by courts.
Arjuna Aloysius.
Arjuna Aloysius were bailed out a couple of days ago. Pardon me for that. That was a big mistake. Arjuna Aloysius and Kasun Palisena were granted bail by the courts just a few days ago. The main man, Arjuna Mahendran, is still at large. At least this year, will we be able to see him returning to Sri Lanka on his own accord, appearing before courts and giving evidence and making life easier for the UNP to at least garner some support at the next election?
Very unlikely. Very unlikely. UNP will go through the mill without trying that out, that option out. Because they think that if they go to try that option of bringing Arjuna Mahendran and then exposing him and producing him before courts and allowing this thing to be resolved in that form, there will be many other things that will come out of the cupboards. So many skeletons. Therefore, they would rather not risk that part but continue in this form, taking the risk that they are already exposed to, because they have gone through the last election in August 2015. They did not get a majority. What we must remember is this country, the people knew, as rightly said by both my colleagues on both sides here, you know, most of these people know that they are rogues, a bunch of rogues. Most of these people in politics, in active politics, are like that. That is why the people in this country did not give a majority to a single party to form a government of their own. Last election, which is the party that came with the majority? No party. None of the parties or the groups that contested the election in 2015 August did end up with a majority. They're all less than the 113 number that is required. Now to form a government, when they want, they will have to call for that person, this person, enter into agreements, side deals, buy people, attempt to buy people. This is what the people did. People taught them a lesson. None of the people have a clear majority. Just imagine if they had a majority of their own, what they could have resorted to. Without a majority, if they are trying all these pranks and playing us out, the country, if they did have a majority, what could have happened?
Mr. Nakon, let's talk about the reappointments of the cabinet, the reappointments that were made by President Maithripala Sirisena to cabinet portfolios. I want to specifically look at the Ministry of Education, which is Minister Akliviraj Karyavasan. Now, there were many issues with regard to him asking the school textbooks to be reprinted because his picture on the textbook was not taken properly, and he looks bad. That's what even the printer says, and hence he will get another batch of textbooks to be printed. So all well and good for the printer, but it's public money at the end of the day. Then there was questions about the school uniform matter, and given all these circumstances, you have him reappointed as the Minister of Education. What was the rationale that was going in the minds of the Prime Minister at that time? Because the Prime Minister may have proposed the name, and the papers reported that the President opposed this move initially. And what problem was going on in the mind of Ranil Wickremesinghe?
I think there is a bit of a confusion even in the Constitution on this matter. It is the Prime Minister who will nominate the ministers, the minister of his cabinet, to the president. The allocation of subjects attached to that ministry is a function that is falling on the president, according to the constitution. Therefore, naming a minister and his main portfolio is the function of the prime minister. So he has done that. His hands are tied. You know, the president cannot say, no, you appoint this man as this minister, this man as... I don't think that is possible.
No, but what was the rationale that was going in the mindset of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister when he was reappointing individuals like Akliviraj Karyavasan to the post of...
There is no mindset issue. He endorsed all what the education minister did. It's his colleague, his friend. People recognize him as one of his, men, very close to him. So that has taken place. That is what is showing.
But isn't this going to be the problem for the UNP at the next election? We had an individual whose name came up with regard to making or renting out an apartment complex in Colombo, and then now he's being given a portfolio as well. We know that there were other issues like Minister Malik Samar Vikrama's position. He's reappointed as in the same portfolio. So there were individuals
that shows the formation of the UNP. This has been there for the last so many years. We have seen people rising up as if they are going to break tomorrow, but nothing happens. So this is known to Ranil Wickremesinghe, knows that although these people shout and they make a big noise, they will remain. He knows it.
But can he survive?
Well, this survival is enough for him, what is happening now. With all difficulties, he managed to come back, and that's good enough. Even as a leader of the opposition, he was a contented man for 17 years. He continued as a leader of the opposition. He never wanted to change his leader of the opposition by giving it to another person to try it out,
but it seems
to organize the party.
Yeah, but it seems now that he wants to be the president of the country one day. by contesting the next election. Do you think that even this dream is going to be shattered at the next election,
I
the way
think,
things are moving?
Mr. Wickramasinghe is not a proven politician, successful politician in this country. He has been trying all the time. And he tried even in 2015, he tried this. No, the social groups that advocated the change, they wanted a change, never wanted Mr. Wickramasinghe. When Mr. Wickramasinghe wanted and was aspiring to be the candidate common, they refused. This is a fact. So today, what has happened is, now I don't agree with this understanding of some of us expressed here, that if the UNP, if they put someone else, they will win. No. If they put someone else, those people who are faithful to Mr. Wickramasinghe will pull their leg and finish that fellow. This is the story. What happened to Fonseca? Fonseca was given the mandate. He was contesting. I know people very close to Ranil Wickramasinghe never supported Fonseca because he was Fonseca.
But
he was not Wickramasinghe.
But we see right now, Mr. Nikon,
let me conclude by saying one more thing, please.
Yes,
So either way, whether it is Mr. Wickramasinghe or someone else from his party, it is a lost case.
The tug of war between Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca and Deputy Minister Palithavara Perumal, that's going on in social media quite vigorously these days. Is it fit for individuals of this nature to be at each other or snap at each other based on what they've been doing as a unit or as a team in the cabinet?
I don't think that such acts deserve comments from a forum like this. It should be disregarded. So low, so mean. I mean, they come to the open public and say this. I mean, we are only shocked. It is shocking to us to see that these are the people who are responsible for the legislation in this country to look after the future of the people of this country. One of the 225, 1 or 2. I mean, if these are the people, it's a sorry state of affairs. No?
Thank you very much.
We should not discuss about this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vishwapal Tennakoon, member of the Colombo Municipal Council. I now move attention to Shamindra Ferdinand, the news editor of the Island newspaper. Shamindra, U-turns after U-turns. The Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna, the young parliamentarian from Hambantota district, Damal Rajapaksa, posted on Twitter his membership card from the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna. And then when the father was questioned about whether he gave out membership cards, he said, no, I did not give out any membership card. I just gave a piece of paper and did not want to comment further on it. And Namal Rajapaksa since then has taken down the picture that he put up on Twitter as well. So these U-turns that the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna has been taking, do you think it's going their way? Do you think that there's some issues somewhere, even from the Sri Lanka Pujana Peramuna at present? It seems that there seems to be some infighting between the brothers or between the wives, or something is not right.
Something is not right in all our political parties, not only in the UNP, but the SLP, SLPP, the JVP. See, that's why at the beginning I pointed out, Shamir, all political parties are in turmoil, total turmoil. You take the SLPP, right? The SLPP having won the February 2018 election, local government election, they were doing very well, extremely well. Then there was a movement, people who felt that the former defense secretary should be the SLPP candidate. There was a lot of support for him. Then all of a sudden the SLPP declared that the former president, in spite of the 19th amendment, could contest again, right? So after that, only this October 26th came, right? So I believe the SLPP made a huge mistake there. first by announcing the former president can contest again, then this person is going to receive a duty-free car permit worth 30 million rupees for the next 10 months, 10 or 15 months, right? And he'll get it. He'll get it. So it's a big game. So there's no point in blaming one political leader or one political party. It's the system. The SLFP, UMP, SLPP, JVP, TNA, the Muslim Congress, all together. You see, you talk about the local government system. They created this system. They created the national list also there. Right now, people, the political parties can appoint people to the local government system.
Yeah.
Right? So the local government system is also as corrupt as the parliament. So we simply have no hope. We don't have functioning provincial councils, but the government appoints governors. Right? And this is a very lucky place. Some of the people who were here invited by this television station recently received appointments. I mean, I don't say anything about it. It's all right, but among the appointed persons were leaders of two political parties. Now it's very interesting whether they are going to continue as leaders of those political parties, Mr. Maithu Gunaratne and Asad Sali, or continue as governors.
So you were quite right, Shamindra, when you said about appointments that were made. We saw Nala Godheva being appointed as chairman of Sri Lanka Insurance, which was reversed several days later. Then we saw Kapil Chandrasena being appointed as the chairman of Sri Lanka, and that was reversed. And all these two people were highly involved in financial misappropriation and many other scandals within the scope of work that they've been doing. But the point is, at the end of the day, what must innocent Sri Lankans do? We appoint parliamentarians, we appoint presidents, we appoint prime ministers, and are we to look and just wait?
The people are helpless, Shamir. People are helpless. Because see, as I pointed out earlier, when a defeated candidate can be accommodated again in parliament, a person who has been rejected by the electorate, he can come back. If the president or that particular political party wants that particular person, he can be brought back. And you take the case of, now see, the people must have faith in politicians, the lawyers and senior officials. Now, recently I revealed, then Rave also revealed, how the Bar Association of Sri Lanka received 2.5 million rupees from PTA in 2016. Now, after two scams committed at the central bank, the lawyers, the premier organization in this country, received 2.5 million rupees. So something wrong there also. So people have no say, or people have no faith in this system. I think there must be a new political movement, or some people coming into politics, new people. Maybe the Sri Lankans will reject the UNP, the SLFP and all the political parties.
Thank you very much, Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of the Idol newspaper. I open the floor for questions from our journalist, Nadeem.
Thanks, Shamir. Mr. Gunasekara, I'd like to start with you. Shamir was asking you the question about the Prime Minister's asset declaration, and Shamindra was just now articulating the problem with the system and how it is corrupt to the core, and there needs to be greater transparency, accountability. He mentioned about monies that were changing hands between the company at the center of the bond scam and various politicians. Now, after the RTI Act came into effect, one of the very first RTIs that was filed by Transparency International Sri Lanka, where I consult, was the application for the President's and Prime Minister's asset declarations. More than a year and 10 months later, after going through the entire appeals process, the RTI Commission issued an order, released the Prime Minister's asset declarations for 2015 and 2016 as requested, and you can make redactions when where necessary. Then, after all this political sort of drama and this clash between the President and Prime Minister, we find out that the Presidential Secretariat has decided to appeal against the order of the RTI Commission, preventing access to the Prime Minister's asset declaration. when you look back at even the measures that have been taken to bring about some kind of transparency and accountability through the Audit Act, through the RTI Act, and then you see on almost every step of the way, they're trying to trip it up by the feet. What does this tell you? And what does this tell you about, is there really a conflict between the President and the Prime Minister if the President is blocking this document from becoming public?
I don't know as to whether there is a conflict, but if anybody asks, if I were the Prime Minister and asked my asset deck, I would have put it out. What is there to hide? I can't understand why people need to hide their asset declaration. You put it out. If you can't do that, then there's something wrong.
Mr. Tennakoon, as a local councillor, you also submit your asset declaration when you're elected and then periodically. Where do you stand on this issue? Shouldn't this information be available to the public so that they can make informed choices regarding the people that they're voting for?
I agree with you, because once it is declared and it is in the form of a document. Now, if they don't want it to be published, I don't know, then there must be something wrong with their personal approach to it. But then once it is declared, there can't be any restriction to it being shown on request in a legal way. I don't know. I mean, this is very strange. It sounds very awkward. Why a person should resist it being published or given to the parties who want it?
Shamindra, I want to, because we were talking about the bond scam and about the lack of justice there as well. As a fellow journalist, you will understand that January this year marks a very dark anniversary for us. For us at MTV MBC, it was the attack on our studio complex in Deparnama, followed 2 days later by the assassination of the editor of the Sunday Leader, Mr. Lasantha Wickramatunge. And there have been numerous such attacks, assassinations, murders. The attack on Keith Noya, on Poddala Jayantha, on Prageet Eknaligoda, who is still missing, or no one knows what happened to him. Do you think this was another slogan for the Yahapalana government when they came to power? We will ensure that justice is served for all these people. Do you think that such justice is possible, that it will come to fruition at some point?
I don't think so. I don't think so. See, because you will realize, earlier we were talking about the RTI, although the political parties clash over various issues, on certain issues you will realize that they will cooperate. They'll cooperate because...
They're together.
Yes, because a party that wants to capture power does not want to destroy it. They want the system intact. Then only they can get that 30 million rupee tax-free permit, then do all the other things. So, Lasantha's killing was used by Yahapalana fellows. So, they had plenty of time since January 8th up to today to, if they really want to inquire into this, to do it. But they did not. You take the case of 11 Tamil youth who were abducted by the Navy in 2008-2009 period. I always point out at conferences, media conferences, the former president's government should have investigated that. There's, you know, without blaming President Sirisena and Prime Minister Wickramatunge, I mean, accusing them of harassing security forces and various things, they should have investigated, because the former commander of the Navy, Admiral Vasantha Karanlavakoda, complained to the police. But the previous government did not investigate. So, I believe the media is also an issue for them, and they will use media to come into power. Once they take power, they will completely forget about it.
Mr. Gunasekara, we have a bit of a problem in our system, and that the events of October 26th and thereafter really exposed the weaknesses in our governance system. Because in Sri Lanka we have, it's quite unique, because we have both a presidential system and also a Westminster system. where there is a parliament that is quite powerful and an executive that is executive presidency that is even more powerful. In many countries around the world, you don't see this. It's either more towards Westminster or more towards an executive presidency. You have the Westminster model of the UK and the presidency of the United States, and then you have the French Republic, which is sort of kind of similar, but still there is a clear separation of powers between the different arms of government. Now we're seeing a lot of talk about a new constitution, but this is going to be outside of the procedure that was initially promised by the Yaparne government, which was that they would have the Constitutional Assembly, which would have the subcommittees and the steering committee, and based on the reports of these different committees and the public consultations, they would draft a document, a new draft a proposed constitution. They promised that it would be transparent. But in the past couple of days, we've seen TNA parliamentarian Mr. Sumandiran saying that they will have a draft constitution ready by the 4th of February. How is that possible when those different subcommittees and committees and stuff have not met? Where is this draft constitution coming from then?
Yeah, this is, the question is this, TNA also needs to understand that they have to get things through in a backdrop of where both parties are willing to support. If you have a situation where one party is not willing to support and the other party is, then it's going to fail. Now at this juncture, I see, of course, the committees are not met, and I don't think they have decided on anything. But at the same time, Jayapathi Wickramaratne and Mr. Sumandiran are talking of a document which will be placed before Parliament. Now already the Podujana Peramuna is very vocal and very critical of that document. They are not even seen that. But they have already started their campaign against that particular document. So as to whether that can go through, I don't know. I don't think so.
So, I mean, doesn't this look like political suicide to you from the part of the UNP and even from the part of the TNA, to at a time when the economy is, regardless of the principles of needing a new constitution or not, leave aside the principles, focus on the realistic sort of perspective, which is that the economy is not doing that great right now. There's a need for a drastic economic pickup. Do you think that the government has the time or the energy or even the political capital right now to do both economic reform and also constitutional reform?
Shall I answer that question?
You know what, I just want to tell you, we think that you must realize that the people of this country did not ask for a new constitution after the war. See, if you check Geneva, there's a statement made by head of that commission, Prince Hussein. He says that Sri Lanka should have a new constitution now on the basis of unsubstantiated war crimes, allegations against the Sri Lankan armed forces. They ordered us to have a new constitution. Now you must keep that in mind. Geneva ordered Sri Lanka to have a new constitution. Now this government realized that although they cannot win the electorate, they can exploit the parliament. Within the parliament, they can do a lot of things. See, although the UNP cannot prove simple majority in parliament, when it comes to a stage, you will see the UNP, the TNA and the JAP will work together, right? They've been working together since 2010. When General Fonseca contested as the common candidate, there were 4 political parties who worked for Fonseca: UNP, JAP, TNA and SLMC. When Mr. Maitripala Sirisena contested in 2015, the same lot worked together. They are there still, right? So they can always try to get a section of the SLP to decide. They have plenty of money. earlier at the beginning of this program, I pointed out the amount of funds pumped by the Americans. If it's 1/3 of that amount spent there, it's 200 million. 200 million US dollars, right? So you can buy anybody, I mean.
Can I also contribute to your constitutional thing? I want to just take your mind back to the time that we did the 19th Amendment. What is the parliament that did the 19th Amendment?
Previous parliament.
The previous parliament which was there when the president was elected. Did that parliament have a mandate from the people to change the constitution?
The president had a mandate.
The president had a mandate. That president has broken away from the coalition that he formed with the government to form a government today. So where does that mandate stand today? This parliament does not have a mandate from there is no people's initiative for this constitutional change or the new constitution. You know, constitutions are not just born in the minds of the politicians. It is wrong, especially at a time when there is a parliament with no majority, when there is a parliament that has not presented a budget, when there is a parliament that they are not sure of their own majority to continue in power. If they are talking about a constitution, I mean, it becomes a joke.
Mr. Gunasekara, your thoughts?
Yeah, you mentioned that it's suicidal, huh?
Yeah. So why are they going ahead with it?
No.
I mean, surely the UMP and the TNA.
No. I don't think it's suicidal. Don't ever think that it is suicidal. They want it to fail. Huh?
They want it to fail.
They want it to fail.
Why?
Because they stand to gain.
What do you gain by making it fail?
No.
By bringing in that whatever document it is.
No, they
that
realize
Mr. Vikram
realize without the support of the UPFA, they can't pull through. That's very clear. At the moment, the way it stands, the UPFA and of course the Podujana Perumuna, whatever it is, they are all together. In that backdrop, as to whether the UPFA will support, I don't think so.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So then it's going to fail. But they made the effort.
Yeah, they are left with a slogan for
They
the
made
next
the effort.
election.
But as
it's not suicidal.
Mr. Tennecoon highlighted, there is no public initiative.
No,
so
there
in
is
the
no public
absence of
initiative.
there being a public initiative, that slogan is useless, isn't
No,
it?
that is why I said the TNA needs to understand, if they want to get things through, they must ensure that both parties are willing to support both parties. If one party is against, it's not going to work. Two major parties.
But the
Mr. Guru,
TNA is working for their own support, I think, their own people. They are looking for their votes. So their votes, they will go and say, well, we wanted to change the constitution, bring a new constitution. See, we did not succeed. It's a slogan for them.
Yeah, it's a slogan for them as well.
It's a slogan for them. Their survival is, this ends.
So it sounds to me like it's a slogan for the TNA to use,
Yes.
but it's detrimental to the UNP.
Yeah, but
It's
that is
not-
ultimately it is coming to the UNP.
No,
because
it's
when
not detrimental to the UNP.
No,
How can it be detrimental?
when they put forward the candidate, a common candidate, they are also looking for the TNA support.
No, what I mean is it increases the UNP's dependence on the TNA.
Yeah, they are already dependent. They are very dependent, very much more. It looks like that they are demanding things and getting things done. That is what it appears. There's no secret.
But you must keep in mind the international factor. There are external factors the SLP, UMP and the JP cannot ignore.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you saw now recently when the president appointed the former president as the prime minister, the pressure brought by the Western powers and India. No? So,
They never accept
please
that,
don't forget the external factors. There are there. You simply cannot ignore, because in March 2019, this year, right, Geneva will ask us to explain what we have done over the past 2 years. Right? If they do not explain ourselves, then there will be GSP plus, various other restrictions. They will put tremendous pressure on us. So, Sri Lanka is not in a position to ignore external factors.
They
Mr.
can't.
Ferdinando, but I also wanted to ask you now, you're constantly bringing up this external factor problem. Now, for example, the IMF, the World Bank, they tend to offer guidelines in terms of financial management. And a slogan commonly put forward by those from the joint opposition, the Podujana Peramuna, is that the IMF comes with it conditions that are not necessarily good for the country. That in the sense that the IMF is trying to hijack control. Now the thing is, aren't these IMF conditions currently being introduced and imposed because of financial mismanagement that started with the reign of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, because we borrowed about $4.8 billion at that time. After that, we've borrowed more aggressively between 2015 and 18. So it's been a long-running thing, Nadeem, where we have not been managing our finances. The investments haven't given enough returns. Then we are taking loans to pay loans. And while we are taking loans, we are taking separate loans to take projects. So for example, we've been taking loans between 2015 and 18. In addition, we are taking separate loans for projects like the Rajagiriya flyover. So isn't this a culmination of something that has happened that started during the period of the former president?
I agree with you. I mean, there's no dispute over that. I mean, if you see not only President Rajapaksa, even before, over a period of time, due to financial mismanagement,
Indiscipline,
corruption, waste and irregularities, you will see the parliament is not functioning. The people say the parliament is the most corrupt institution in this country, right? The president says so. Then the President Council, Mr. Vijayadas Rajapaksa, explained recently how all political parties currently in parliament got together and prevented empowering of the bribery commission. It's a very serious allegation, very serious allegation. So the problem is there. So you have a very corrupt parliament, provincial council system, then you have the local government. So all three layers of government, administration, corrupt.
Mr. Tennukon, I just want to ask you.
We will have to wrap up. I'm very sorry, Deshan. We are running out of time. We now go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the final round. Stick around, stay with Face Nation. We will be right back. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the final round with Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of the Island newspaper. Shamindra, in a nutshell, where do we stand today? Do you think that, is there a glimmer of hope? Is there a light end of this dark tunnel that we are in right now? The time starts now.
It's going to be a very difficult year, 2019, and I must tell you, the political parties collectively have failed to deliver. All political parties. The entire parliament and the public administration, our foreign service, you take all the systems in this country, they have failed. They have failed the people, and people have no faith in any political party today. The system is so corrupt. The ordinary people, those who are struggling to make ends meet, you know, they simply hate the political party system. To see all these corrupt people who come in white, to go into the parliament, make statements, make claims, and expect people to believe them. I think we don't have any hope at the moment. I sincerely hope that there's the international community, the Western powers, bringing pressure on the government to do the correct thing, right? Because they intervene in this here over human rights violations, war crimes, various issues. I think with the Western powers, the IMF, the World Bank, they should very closely inquire into what's going on in this country, right? Because the parliament, I believe, is the most corrupt institution in this place.
Shamindra, at one point you say the international community should not intervene, and then you say now the international community should keep a close watch.
What I said was the international community intervene here to help Mr. Maithripala Sirisena to win 2015 election, right? So then there's nothing wrong in the same people inquiring into the well-being of the economy. There's nothing wrong. Now, as an example, Singapore can hand over Mr. Arjuna Mahendran to Sri Lanka for us to investigate this central bank bond scam, so they can cooperate.
Thank you very much, Shamendra Ferdinando. I see that you are dreaming of the impossible. But again, positivity is important. Singapore may do it in the coming 12 months. You never know.
Yes, you never know.
So I now move my attention to Mr. Kesara Gunasekara, member of the Devalamount Municipal Council representing the United People's Freedom Alliance. Mr. Gunasekara, this is a learning curve for many political parties the last few months have been. What are the lessons or the takeaways from this whole fiasco?
Well, the question is, I'd wonder whether any political party learns things. Because it is very clear, whatever they want to do, they'll do. That's all.
I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Gunasekara, I'm trying to figure out, how is it that President Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was defeated in the presidential election, came back on the 17th of August 2015 as a parliamentarian? How he was vying to be the Prime Minister of the country at one point. Then now he is trying to be the opposition leader of the country. What is it that is running in the mindset of Mahinda Rajapaksa? What may be running in the mindset of
Well, I think it's very clear that he wants power back again. It could be for several reasons. Number one, to protect his cohorts. That's very clear. Because who knows what's in store for them. So the only way their survival is him. They're hanging on to him. It's very clear. Without him, none of those people can survive. So they will want to prop him up. And that's exactly why he took up that post. I don't think for a moment he realized, look here, it's a difficult, it's an easy game. No, he knew that it was a difficult game. He knew it was a difficult game, but still he accepted that purely because he had so many people behind him who were wanting him to become the Prime Minister. Here was a chance. He thought, okay, we'll grab it. And he expected the UNPers, some of the UNPers to come and join him. That did not happen. That is exactly what went wrong.
So you mean to say that he was ill-advised?
I don't think he was ill-advised. I fundamentally feel that we went and told him, look here, everything is hunky-dory, you come and take over, the people will come and join. And that is exactly what did not happen.
Do you think anyone else in the hierarchy are ill-advised?
The way things are happening, yes, it is. Of course, you can't blame. I don't blame the president for dissolving parliament.
I did not mention president.
I don't blame the president for dissolving parliament. Look here, the legal luminaries waxing eloquent, saying that the president had the powers to dissolve parliament. The attorney general going before courts and saying that the president had the authority to dissolve parliament. You think the president made a mistake? I don't think so. To him, it was possible. So he dissolved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesara.
I mean, I hope I did not confuse you.
Certainly
because that
not.
is exactly what I saw.
Certainly not.
I mean, going through the programs during that period. I'm not a legal expert. Yeah. I'm no legal luminary. But I saw so
We've
many
had lawyers
people.
debating here about this as well. So
Exactly.
I'm not going to give my opinion about it because we already have an opinion from the Supreme Court, and that is the rule.
But it was
of the day.
very clear that there are people in this country who come and say, knowing very well it is wrong, that it is right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesara Gunasekara, a member of the Devalamount Municipal Council. I now move my attention finally to Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon, member of the Colombo Municipal Council of the United People's Freedom Alliance. Mr. Tennakon, there's one more vacancy in the southern province as the governor.
Could be Mr. Tennakon.
The last few times we had some speakers, they were appointed as governors of the respective provinces. My question to you is, the UNP, the SLFP, the UPFA, the SLPP, the JVP, TNA, EPDP and you can Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, the list goes on. Isn't it time now at least for some other alternative political party, political force or an individual to come to the forefront and take control of the situation and lead our country?
I think if that happens, it is well and good, it is good for everybody. But unfortunately, there is hardly any time that such a thing can manifest into some action for some meaningful result. That may not happen. So therefore, we have to be satisfied with that, because the possibilities of such a thing manifesting into some reality is very, very, very remote. Therefore, I don't look at it now. But some people will have to join some party, go along with the parties, change their structure if possible, and then work. But one thing that I must, before concluding, say is, people in this country will have to take note of their recent past experiences. On 15th May, we passed the constitution and the parliament was dissolved on 26th June. Now, we have a budget. Immediately after the budget, we have a very short time for this parliament and we are trying to go through with the constitution. And some people are saying that on the 4th of February, we are going to table a document. Now, people will have to be aware of this situation and take strong opposition to any move to surreptitiously bring forward the idea of a constitution and confuse all of us. That should never happen in this country.
Mr. Nakon, looking at the past, let's look at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party for an example. In 1952, there was an individual called Sri Nisanka, who probably many people don't know. He was the founder of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party in 1952. And he gave the helm to SWRD Bandaranaike because he was a commoner and he thought that SWRD Bandaranaike can lead the party towards victory, which happened in 1956. And now, you saw individuals giving away their positions for the betterment of a political party or even the country in the past. But right now, do you see that happening in Sri Lanka? They seem to be just hanging on to power over and over again. Is this the expectation?
The parties have reconciled to the fact that, when they confine their activities and confusions to the party headquarters and take it away from the people, people have hardly any role to play. Those days when we were active in the parties, we had a grassroots level support and a backing and some activity going on. The parties were really spread out in the country. Today the parties are confined to their headquarters, their leaders, and they are meeting, discussing, and that is the end of it. Where is the role of the people, the members? Do they actively take part in things, in any activity of the parties? When they come to Colombo, when they are called, the numbers, when the bus is sent, they come. That is the party activity. Before, earlier days, the party branches, the various other groups in the village level, they were very active. They were part and parcel of the entire politics of the country. Today it is not so. The political game is played by a few leaders and they, by the crossovers and the leaders. So this is the difference. Actually, if a party is in full action, in full gear, they should be spread to the countryside. They should be with the people. And that's not happening. And they are doing it deliberately because if the party activity is in the hands of the people, there is a possibility for people to elect their leaders. Here the leaders choose their way, people are left out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thennakoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Kesalat Gunsekar, a member of the Devil Mount Municipal Council, representing the UPFA. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the show as usual. Thank you very much, Mr. Rusipal Thennakoon, member of the Colombo Municipal Council, representing the UPFA, joining us this evening on the show. Shamindra Ferdinand, news editor of the Island newspaper. If Mr. Thennakoon and Mr. Gunasekara are looking for a spot as the governor, there is only one vacancy left. So, so in the event that's in the cards, don't have any expectation at the moment.
Why are you leaving out Shamindra?
Shamindra, I don't assume Shamindra taking over any position in this government. Maybe some other time.
Don't say that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening on the show. It's on a lighter note. I wish you, the three of you, a happy new year and a prosperous one in the future, which would be filled with happiness as well as good health. Thank you very much, Deshan. Thank you very much, Nandin, for joining us this evening on the Absolutely. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. He who wants his future to be better than the present must work for it now to make it so. Take care and good night.